Olá, boa noite, bem-vindo à Fm Entrevista. E hoje recebemos o general Scipio Inhada, ex-comandante militar, foi chefe das Forças de Defesa Sul-Africana de 1998 a 2005, foi ministro também das Comunicações de 2009 a 2010, entre outros cargos, e hoje é alto comissário aqui em Moçambique. A quem cumprimento desde já, bem-vindo ao programa.
Obrigado.
Como é que estão as relações entre Moçambique e também a África do Sul? Sabemos que já está há muito tempo a cooperar com Moçambique.
Well, we've had a strategic relationship with Mozambique. In fact, preceding our democracy, but post-democracy, we intensified our relations with Mozambique. We were invested in the Cabora Bassa scheme, electrical scheme. South Africa invested there ages ago, and following our democracy, we invested together with Mozambique in the development of the corridor, the Mozambique-Maputo corridor, N4 corridor. We invested in Mozal. We invested through Sasol in the Romco pipeline, as well as many other investments, because of the strategic relationship we have with Mozambique and the need for us to work together with Mozambique on our joint development and the development of Mozambique.
E também temos que trazer esta relação e olharmos para aquilo que é esta relação económica mais industrializada. Sabemos que a África do Sul é mais industrializada e Moçambique posiciona-se como um dos principais players no setor de energia. Como pode-se cruzar o modelo de desenvolvimento económico?
The main areas of interest between South Africa and Mozambique are, first of all, energy, as you say, and I indicated our investment long ago in the energy infrastructure of Mozambique. We invested, we have been asked by Mozambique to participate in the Pandankua electrical scheme recently, and we are considering that. We have invested a lot in Mozambique, in the gas finds in Mozambique. The Development Bank of South Africa, Sasol, have invested a lot in the development of the blocks that exist in Mozambique to help the countries, both countries, to grow.
Esta é a avaliação económica entre Moçambique e também África do Sul. Por outro lado, quais são as áreas de interesse económico entre estes dois países?
Well, South Africa has many interests, and I think those interests are mutual. First of all, the development of the port and the use of the port of Mozambique. We've got interests in energy development and exploitation in Mozambique. We've got interests in tourism. We've got interests in the financial sector, interest in communication. We have got so many interests in Mozambique. There are so many. We help Mozambique with the growth of this sugar industry. We help Mozambique in all aspects of the economy of Mozambique.
Estas são as principais áreas de interesse entre a África do Sul e Moçambique, que bem descreveu aqui o embaixador. Mas, entretanto, há uma área em que o embaixador foi focalizado, sendo a África do Sul a economia mais industrializada da África, e Moçambique já se posiciona como um dos principais players no setor energético. Como pode-se cruzar o modelo de desenvolvimento econômico?
Well, there are many experts who propose economic integration between Mozambique and South Africa. Because South Africa, as I indicate, South Africa is a neighbor of Mozambique. South Africa's infrastructure from its territory into Mozambique, and has got the possibility to develop further infrastructure with the cooperation of Mozambique into Mozambique. It has got the N4, it has got the possibility to develop other routes, to develop possibilities of using other modes of transport other than the main one now, which is logistics, transportations by vehicles. South Africa has got enterprises who have got reserves of cash that they want to invest wherever their returns will be realized. And Mozambique is one of the countries where this can happen. And it is proposed by many that, in fact, economic integration between South Africa and Mozambique is the best for both countries.
Esteve aqui também a falar da Estrada Nacional número 4 que liga Moçambique, neste caso Maputo, e também Pretória na África do Sul, e vai aumentando o volume de negócios entre estes dois países, vai desenvolvendo estes dois países e este corredor que acaba sendo muito importante para os dois países. Qual é o volume de investimento da África do Sul em Moçambique e também as áreas prioritárias?
Well, it's very difficult to quantify the volume of investments from South Africa to Mozambique, because most of the investments are done by private sector. As I speak, there are many South Africans who are talking to Mozambicans to form joint ventures in order to invest, whether it is in mining or in the retail sector, and many other sectors, forestry and so on. So it is, and those people don't even sometimes tell the South African government or the South African High Commission that they are here to invest and how much they are investing, because some of those things they reserve for themselves. What we know, of course, is that there are many other institutions of a public nature, like the Development Bank of South Africa, like Sasol, who make these investments, which are into their billions, public, and interact with the embassy in order to inform them of this.
Olhamos para estas áreas economicamente que possam ajudar os dois países a desenvolver, mas por outro lado, algumas zonas de penumbra nas relações económicas e políticas entre Moçambique e também a África do Sul. Muitos são os moçambicanos que foram assassinados em atos xenófobos na África do Sul. Pode comentar um pouco relativamente a este assunto, não só relativamente a atos xenófobos que muitos moçambicanos foram assassinados, mas também, por outro lado, nestes últimos acontecimentos relativamente aos carros que tenham matrículas de Moçambique?
You know, to perceive whatever happens in South Africa with respect to Mozambican citizens as xenophobia is beyond me, because South Africa and Mozambique and Mozambicans have had quite a long relationship, friendly relationship. The people of Mozambique built that economy of South Africa in the mines. They worked in the mines, you know, Teba here. They built South Africa, they helped build the economy of South Africa in the mines of Johannesburg with other Southern African countries like Swaziland and Zimbabwe. Mozambicans died on their way to work in those mines in South Africa. And we have had relations with Mozambique that were very friendly, with Mozambicans that were friendly. When South Africa became a democracy, there were hundreds of thousands of Mozambicans in South Africa. Those Mozambicans were, according to the government of South Africa, to become part of South Africa. Of course, some things happened that it actually did not materialize in some instances where some of them did not even receive the necessary identifications. But South Africa embraced Mozambicans who were in South Africa at the time of democracy. So there is no way in which South Africans deliberately can target Mozambicans in xenophobic attacks. It does happen, of course, that sometimes there are conflicts, just as there are conflicts between South Africans themselves, seeking to carve themselves a living, seeking to compete with others. And some of instances we have witnessed which seem to suggest a xenophobia, but it is not xenophobia. It's people competing for resources. It is unfortunate, but it is in no way true that South Africans can become xenophobic against Mozambicans with whom they have lived for so long. I know people from Mozambique who lived in my township, and relatives of mine who got married to Mozambicans. So there is no way, and many other South Africans also. That's why we call Mozambicans, sometimes you find South Africans calling Mozambicans Sibali, which means brother-in-law, because we don't have any attitude against Mozambicans, hate attitude against Mozambicans, because they helped us to build that economy. We built that economy together.
Depois de esclarecimento deste assunto relativamente aos assuntos xenófobos, há que também entrarmos para um outro campo, mesmo da justiça, onde houve uma batalha do Judicial no caso da detenção na República Sul-Africana, concretamente no aeroporto Oliver Tambo, a 29 de dezembro de 2018, do antigo ministro das Finanças, Manuel Chang, que acabou sendo extraditado para os Estados Unidos da América. E vamos saber até que ponto a nega da justiça sul-africana em dar provimento ao pedido de Moçambique criou feridas nas relações entre Moçambique e África do Sul.
The extradition of the former minister, Mr. Chang, to the United States can in no way affect relations between our two countries. The extradition was effected after a court judgment. That court, in South Africa, we have a system where the judiciary is free from interference by any other arm of the state. Government cannot interfere in the affairs of the conduct of the judiciary. So too Parliament. So we have distinct entities of state. And in no way can government interfere in the decisions of the judiciary. I am sure that the government of Mozambique had spoken to and requested South Africa to have Chang brought brought back to Mozambique. And I think you know that it is in fact not the South African government who prevented Mr. Chang from coming to Mozambique. It is Mozambican entities who went to court in South Africa and prevailed upon the court not to send Mr. Chang to Mozambique. I think you should know that. So it shouldn't cost, because South African government and Mozambique had spoken about this thing, and South African government perhaps was willing to do so, but it is subject to the rule of law. So the South African government itself is subject to the rule of law and cannot interfere in any judicial matters.
E na opinião, como pergunta de insistência, na opinião do governo sul-africano, o que terá pesado para esta extradição de Manuel Chang para os Estados Unidos da América?
I think there were representations between the government of Mozambique and the government of South Africa over the period of the incarceration of Mr. Chang when he was arrested in South Africa. After he was arrested, there were continuous representations between both governments. But in the end, it had to be, because it was a matter that had to be adjudicated by a court. I think you'd recall that there was a decision by South Africa to do that, which to extradite him to Mozambique, or a consideration of that, because at the request of Mozambique. But it is Mozambican entities who intervened and said they are afraid that if Mr. Chang is returned to Mozambique, he will not receive the justice that is necessary for him to receive in a court of law in Mozambique. It is not South African entities that went to court in order to achieve that. And it is Mozambican entities, non-governmental entities, who then prevailed in the court. And the courts of South Africa looks at the matter in an unbiased way, in an impartial way, and gave the verdict that he needs to be deported to the United States. It may not have been in South Africa's best interest, or the government of South Africa's best interest, but South Africans don't. South African government does not interfere in the judicial processes of the country. We have an independent judiciary.
Fica para trás a guerra judicial entre Estados Unidos, Moçambique e também olhando para aquilo que foi mesmo a África do Sul, o papel da África do Sul relativamente a esta extradição de Manuel Chang para os Estados Unidos da América. Por outro lado, Moçambique, neste caso, concretamente, a província de Cabo Delgado está na mira dos terroristas desde 2017, qual a estratégia regional que deve ser adotada no combate a este mal, a este fenómeno, evitando que se alastre para outras regiões.
South Africa and the whole region were sufficiently concerned about the development of the insurgency, terrorism in Cabo Delgado, to a point where I think, to a large degree, they prevailed upon Mozambique to accept that Mozambique was unable at the time to deal with this phenomenon itself. And they proposed to Mozambique to intervene through the Southern African Development Community. And they then, after considerable time of discussion between themselves and Mozambique, I think in 2021, there were several summits where in the end, it was agreed by SADC to deploy the SAMIM force, Southern African mission in Mozambique, SAMIM, with contingents from Tanzania, South Africa, Botswana, Lesotho, and other countries who came in later. So it is because of the concern that everybody had in the region that this thing could spread to their countries. Of course, now it has come to pass that there was agreement again last year to lapse this agreement, or rather to end the deployment of the SAMIM forces in July of this year. So on the 15th of July, there is going to be a termination of this operation. But South Africa and the region had thought for themselves that it is important to try to stem this tide of terrorism emanating from the north of Mozambique, and therefore decided that its own sons, the sons of the region, would come, and daughters of the region would come here and sacrifice their lives, because some of them died during the process of deployment here in Mozambique. So Southern Africa sacrificed and contributed to the stability that we began to see after their deployment, and the steady erosion of the capabilities of the terrorists in the north in the northern province of Cabo Delgado. So I think we did a lot to try to stem the tide of the growth of this terrorism or insurgency in Mozambique.
Ainda relativamente a este assunto ligado à província de Cabo Delgado, falamos do terrorismo. Sabemos que há bem pouco tempo os Estados Unidos indicaram que há figuras ligadas ao terrorismo que estão a viver mesmo na África do Sul. Mas esta questão só vamos saber e ter a resposta logo após o intervalo. Até já.
Eu adoro ficar perto dos meus amigos.
Porque você começou a andar com besta do Eric.
Mas nem sempre eles conseguem ficar juntos.
Cara, tu fez meu dia, velho. Tu tá frescando com minha cara?
E agora, a gente tá aprendendo a lidar com nossos sentimentos.
Amigos?
Às vezes eu acho que o João não tá gostando nada de ver eu e o Bento andando com o Eric.
O que tu quer aqui, hein, macho? Fala com você, lógico que não.
Só que ele ainda não percebeu que a Helena tá afim dele, né?
Me conta mais sobre você.
O que você quer saber?
Bom, pelo menos já se ligou que o Luigi tá apaixonado.
Como eu faço pra chamar ela pra sair? Vai lá e chama, macho. Não dá, eu sou muito tímido.
E com tudo isso acontecendo ao mesmo tempo, ele ainda quer se declarar pra mim?
Eu te amo. Pronto, falei.
Amanhã, às 18h45, estreia Poliana Monça, a nova novela da TV Miramar.
De volta ao FM Entrevista, continuamos a conversa com o embaixador da África do Sul em Moçambique. Estávamos mesmo antes do intervalo a tocarmos assunto ligado ao terrorismo na província de Cabo Delgado. Terrorismo este que iniciou mesmo em 2017, várias infraestruturas foram destruídas, vidas perderam-se. Mas, por outro lado, há que dizer que em 2023 os Estados Unidos da América indicaram haver na África do Sul pelo menos 4 figuras ligadas ao financiamento ao terrorismo. Como é que olha para esta questão? Mancha ou não a África do Sul?
Well, I think the question can be attended to in 2 ways. First of all, what the United States may characterize as terrorists, you may not characterize as terrorists. There's the issue, for instance, of Hamas, who the United States regard as terrorists, who we don't regard as terrorists. When I go to the United States, I get pulled aside because according to their legislature, according to their laws, I am a terrorist because I participated in the struggle for liberation, which they didn't support, which they characterized as terrorism. So Mandela too was regarded as a terrorist in the United States, and they had to institute particular legislation in order to remove him from that terrorist list. That's one. Secondly, of course, we recognize that there is terrorism as a country, and we recognize that there is terrorist phenomenon even in Mozambique here. But terror cells of terrorists exist everywhere, even in the United States itself. The United States can't claim that they don't have terrorist cells in their country. That is why, in the first place, there was the attack in the United States, the Twin Towers attack, because there were cells, terrorist cells in the United States, and they didn't disappear completely. And they may still exist today. And from time to time, they are discovered to exist. They exist in the United Kingdom. They exist here in Mozambique, in Maputo. They exist. They exist everywhere in Africa. And we are a country, we are a democratic country, just like Mozambique is a democratic country, where people who enter legally and have got believable legends to come into those countries are let in. If there are legitimate reasons why those people come into the country, and some of them may as well be terrorists, but we have a relationship with the United States of America at the security level, where all these matters can be discussed and disproved or proven, so that we take action against all those cells, whatever cells may exist of terror. So I don't think it's an important discovery, if indeed it is so. that there may be terror cells in South Africa, or people who support terrorists in South Africa. And we may arrest some of them from time to time in South Africa, and we have. So I don't think it is an issue that really South Africa should be pointed out to say that there are known cells. And in the first place, when there are known cells of terrorists, it is incumbent upon whoever to discuss with the Mozambican if authorities, if they know they are such, to discuss with the South Africans if they know they are such, so that these matters can be solved, can be settled, and those people arrested and brought to book.
O assunto dos terroristas fica para trás, mas também Moçambique e a África do Sul são países vizinhos, partilham fronteiras. A mais usada é a da Rassane Garcia, que do lado sul-africano é a de Libombo. Como está em termos de parceria neste ponto fronteiriço para fazer com que haja maior fluxo depois da Covid-19?
Mozambique and South Africa have what we call a binational commission, where we meet every 2 years to discuss things that affect both our countries' economies, security, trade, and so on. So this matter is one of the most important matters that concern us at those binational commissions, because it is something that was realized long ago. There was an MOU in 2008 already, where there was a decision to create a one-stop border post. There were decisions that were taken long ago to make this border between Rosana Gracia, the border between Mozambique and Mozambique, a 24-hour border post. It took long because there are so many considerations when those decisions have to be implemented. Recently we have established what is called a border management authority. In the past, we used to have many agencies at the South African side of the border. In Mozambique, it may be so still currently. We have to talk to one another as countries, to each other as countries, in order to smooth things, to make the arrangements so that these things operate properly. It has not come up, you know that the 24-hour border post is now operational, which is an achievement because of this dialogue between both countries. The one-stop border post is also something that concerns South Africans and Mozambique, and it is something that we need to resolve. I think there are many players who want to help both countries in order to resolve this matter. And I think in the ultimate end it is going to be resolved, because it is in nobody's interest that there should be congestion at that border post, the congestion that exists now. But of course the congestion is not only caused by the fact that there is no one-stop border post or that there is no 24-hour border operation. It is caused by the magnitude of the trade that exists between the two countries, which has increased exponentially, especially since the war between Russia and Ukraine, which has seen European countries demanding coal when they were asking for coal stations to be decommissioned. So there is a demand, growing demand for things that making this route even busier than it would have been, and perhaps we would be some way towards trying to resolve this problem. But we are discussing. We are looking to having, and it's Mozambique was supposed to host the binational commission this year. We don't know, because both countries are going for elections, whether this will be possible, but I think it is important that we sit and resolve some of these questions, economic questions, apart from other questions that relate to security issues that you may have asked about earlier.
São 24 horas na fronteira de Ração Garcia ou de Libombo em que há esta abertura, mas continuamos a verificar este congestionamento ao longo da Estrada Nacional número 4, quando falamos de Maputo até a vizinha África do Sul, concretamente em Pretória, esta ligação terrestre. Esta cabotagem via terrestre não poderá prejudicar, não podia-se fazer de uma outra forma?
No, I think it's because there are always business considerations. Because I think the cheapest way in which goods could have been transported to the port of Maputo is through rail. But we know that the capacity of rail at the present moment is not adequate to fulfill that task. That is why there are trucks. But ideally, there shouldn't be trucks on the road transporting coal, but we have now. And there are many also interests, private interests and other interests which militate against finding solutions. Because many of the people who export this coal, who export mining products, minerals and so on, are private individuals. And they have got to weigh the costs against what the cost would be if, say, they went via the sea. In fact, it is not a practical solution at the present moment because, as we speak, in the Richards Bay and Devonport are themselves congested and have got their own logistical problems because of the problems that Transnet has at the current time. So I think that is why you see the diversion of a lot of what used to be exported through Richards Bay and Durban coming through to Maputo. So these are, I would say, nice problems for Mozambique in a way, because it means more revenue for the port of Maputo to be used, even though it has got negative consequences for the congestion at the border. For you and me who use that border to cross into South Africa, to go to Nelspruit and other places in South Africa.
Olhamos para o setor empresarial, em que esteve aqui a responder em relação à cabotagem na Estrada Nacional número 4 e agora seguimos que este ano a África do Sul vai às eleições. Como está organizado este processo das eleições para permitir que os eleitores sul-africanos residentes em Moçambique possam votar?
Well, we had a registration process here in February, early February. We didn't get that many people come to the mission here to do registration because many people, even I, did an online registration. I didn't have to come on the day to register, except to observe the people who were coming to register for the elections. And it is really only those people who were unable by themselves to effect registration. But many people registered online. My family members registered online. They didn't have to come here. The people that work at the mission and some of the staff that work where we have an estate, Kayaletu, also registered online by themselves or were assisted by members of staff of the embassy. But I know that there are so many people, so many South Africans in Mozambique, and many of them that I have encountered who have said that they are going to vote, but because they are registered online, they registered themselves online. And we hope to see all the people who are going to register on the day, on the 29th of May, when our elections take place, or whenever our election date at the mission is decided upon.
Só para clarificar, temos muitos sul-africanos a residir em Moçambique, mas também estes sul-africanos estão em várias províncias do nosso país. O governo sul-africano está preparado para ter estas pessoas para também participarem deste processo de eleição?
Many of the people that I referred to who registered on their own don't live in Maputo. Are people who run businesses in Cabo Delgado, in various provinces, and they were able, because many of them are educated people, to register online. And on the particular day of the vote that will be designated for foreign missions, they will be able to vote. And we hope, we know that elections in South Africa are always free and fair. We never experience conflicts as a result of elections that take place in our country, because we have an independent electoral commission which has briefed now. Some incidents happened recently which concerned many people, where lists of people, of parties, party lists of people who are going to parliament were sent out to the public before the Independent Electoral Commission could do so. But it has come to the Independent Electoral Commission has taken action against those people who were found to have transgressed its processes. So in general, I think the process is starting from the registration through to the elections themselves, because and the fact that there are observers from international communities, including SADC, and in the polling stations themselves, all parties are represented there, and they see to it that before the votes, after the votes are counted, they tally them with their own counting, and they are there when the counting process takes place. And what goes out to the tallying stations will be confirmed by what they have in their own hands, the party representatives. So there is integrity as much as is possible. It doesn't mean, of course, that people can't try to do silly things, but integrity is the name of the game in the South African elections. And very few times have people said those elections are not free and fair. And they have observers, accredited observers that are allowed by South Africa.
E quando chegam às eleições, relativamente a todo o mundo, e desta feita a África do Sul vai às eleições, mas também há sempre uma expectativa tanto do governo sul-africano, mas também para os eleitores. Que desafios?
There are always challenges. For one, when the Independent Electoral Commission was giving briefings recently, they were asked the question, what about load shedding? Is it not likely to affect elections? And they gave assurance that they are going to put up systems which will ensure that that does not happen. But of course, I think normally the bodies that control electricity supply would also be conscious of the fact that this is a very important day in the life of South Africans, and that they will try to make the best effort not to have load shedding, but that is not a guarantee. But the Independent Electoral Commission are talking to them. There are challenges, of course. I mean, all the time you find in polling station long queues, and sometimes there might be disruption, but really, I think most South Africans just go there and queue and come back if they feel the queues are long, and queue later on and vote and cast their vote. And we've got no doubt that the elections in South Africa this time around again will be free and fair, and everybody will participate, those who will do so willingly to participate. And this time there are even independent candidates who are not on party lists, who will be participating, which makes the choice for South Africans wide indeed for them to participate and choose their representatives who are going to go to Parliament.
Embaixador, muito obrigada por ter aceito este convite e fazermos esta radiografia daquilo que é a relação económica, política entre o Moçambique e também a África do Sul.
Muito obrigado. Thank you very much.
Ao caro telespectador, até uma próxima oportunidade.